Well, welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. I'm Jordan Giorgio. We begin with some big news for the Washington Commanders. The team has officially ruled out both quarterback Jayden Daniels and his favorite weapon, receiver Terry McLaurin, for this weekend's game against the Atlanta Falcons. So it's Marcus Mariota time again. His 2 starts as quarterback for the Commanders will come against his 2 former teams. Now, for much more on this and some other news around the league, we say hello to our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. JJ, it's great to see you. Is this the right move for the Commanders, being cautious with Jayden Daniels?
Obviously, only they know that, but it's hard for a lot of people to grasp because when you go back to last year, he had that rib injury. He didn't really practice at all during the week. And then what do you know? He goes out there with some rib protection. He plays against the Chicago Bears, not just plays, throws the game-winning Hail Mary, and then 2 team seasons completely went in different directions, right? And so you had that in the back of your mind. Now you get to the Green Bay Packers game in week 2. He injures his knee. He finishes out the game. Word really doesn't come out until several days later that this is somewhat of a serious injury. He misses that week in week 3, but then the way the Commanders have been sort of secretive, the way that they kind of handle things, everyone more or less assumed that he should be good to go week 4. He's limited. Then you hear Jayden Daniels talk about how he wants to go. He feels great. He's ready to go. Clearly, it is only the Washington Commanders doctors who are holding him back, and ultimately he does not practice today. He will not play on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. It will be Marcus Mariota. Now, what I can tell you is, I know I've seen this a lot. I've heard this a lot. This idea of the ghost of Robert Griffin III in Washington, right? And the parallels, of course, are obvious. Washington thought they had a franchise QB in RG3 more than a decade ago. Number 2 overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, dual threat quarterback. His season career is ruined when he has a knee injury. Well, I just almost described Jayden Daniels, right? And so there's this idea. However, what I would say to that, having talked with folks in Washington, is, of course, there's a new owner, there's new medical staff, new team doctors, new general manager, new head coach. Not the same player, not the same guy, not the same knee. And so because Jayden Daniels has sort of played through pain before, there has been, I think, a false assumption that he would do so again. And even though he wants to, the knee for Jayden Daniels is far, far more important than the ribs were last year ahead of that Chicago game. So the Commanders, again, being cautious, certainly according to Jayden Daniels. He won't go this week. Of course, we'll monitor it, but I continue to be told out of Washington that this is a medical-only decision as it relates to Jayden Daniels.
All right, trust that the team knows what they're doing with their quarterback. Also a brutal blow, as I mentioned at the top, Terry McLaurin also out. That wide receiver room for the Commanders, an absolute mess right now, also out with Noah Brown. If they're able to pull off a win, JJ, without their 2 best offensive players, I think Commanders fans will feel pretty good about the shape of this team. Let's get elsewhere around the league. 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh has had some claims during his press conference earlier today ahead of their game against the Jaguars. Take a listen to this.
You know, they've got legally a really advanced signal stealing type system where they always find a way to put themselves in an advantageous situation. They do a great job with it. They formation you to try to find any nugget they can. So we've got to be great with our signals, and we got to be great with our communication, and to combat some of the tells that we might give on the field. So they're almost elite in that regard. That whole entire tree, from Sean to Kevin O'Connell to all those guys, they all do it. So so there's challenges. They're going to catch us in some situations where they have the advantage, and we just got to play good, sound, fundamental football and do our best to out-execute them.
Jags with a really advanced sign stealing system. JJ, curious your reaction. I see it on your face to those remarks.
So, I mean, first of all, if it's legal, it's not stealing, right? We had this whole conversation in college football a couple of years ago, right, where Michigan was doing the sign stealing that they couldn't be doing. But everyone in college football tries to look for tells, tries to look at the other team's signals and decode them. Look, it's my understanding that the Jacksonville Jaguars don't do anything that frankly, 31 other teams don't do. Maybe they spend a little bit more time on it than the majority of the league, but essentially what you are doing is you're taking the available film, that's the all 22, that's the television copy, you're listening to all the microphones that are out there on the field, and you're trying to get as many tips or hints as you possibly can, right? You're trying to figure out the rules of the defense, right? So when this team does this with a motion, what does the defense do? And then you match it up to the signals there. And perhaps you are able to tell by the time you play that team that when they do that one signal, this is what you're going to get. Now, you live by that, and perhaps you ultimately can, get them on a play, get them on a series, perhaps get them in a game. You can also die by that, because if you believe that the team isn't going to change the signal, and then they do change those signals, and you are anticipating something else, well, what you wind up getting is yourself in a whole lot of trouble. What is odd, and I say what's odd because the rest of the league really found what Robert Saleh said to be odd. Again, he continued to reinforce that this is legal. Again, this happens all the time in the NFL. And I want to read for you a sampling of having talked with folks around the league who someone said, dumb comment. Another source said, didn't really make any sense to me. Another source said, all part of the advanced scouting process. A fourth source says, sounds like what he's saying is they're better at it than others, but signals are signals. Ultimately, this didn't make a whole lot of sense. And lastly, I want to say, well, I think some people are saying, oh, that's just mind games from Robert Saleh. What he wants people to think is that he is on to Liam Cohen. He wants the Jaguars to think extra hard. If they're going to steal a signal, is that signal what you think it is? First of all, you think about that every single week. If you're in the business of decoding signals and living by them, you know that you run the risk of dying by them. So this doesn't change anything for the Jaguars. And lastly, having talked with folks in Jacksonville, they said, we're not concerned about it. In fact, it sounds like we're in his head more than he's in ours. It's business as usual for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's an excellent explanation from you, JJ. Always great to see you here live on CBS Sports HQ. Curious if we do get, though, a verbal comment from Jacksonville. We'll wait and see as that game 1 o'clock on Sunday.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you.
Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
With highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in-depth analysis.
Can they three-peat? Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
When you need your sports in a snap,
we're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
Find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.